Sometimes you eat something and it just feels, well, modern. The flavors are really bright. The way it looks on the plate seems intentional, and you feel good afterwards, not like completely weighed down.
Yeah, absolutely. Energized almost.
Exactly. Ever wonder where that whole approach really came from? Well, that's what we're diving into today. A really key moment that pretty much reshaped how we eat.
We're looking at a really interesting piece from Utrikani Pelin. It's called Kako surabri francuski szefowi zowijek promijenili način na koji demo.
Which translates to?
Basically, how brave French chefs forever changed the way we eat. And honestly, that title really nails what we want to unpack in this deep dive.
It really does. So our mission today is to explore this massive shift in cooking, this revolution called Nouvelle Cuisine, and figure out how it's still affecting our dining experiences, probably in ways we don't even realize wherever we are.
Yeah, and to really get why Nouvelle Cuisine was such a big deal, you kind of have to picture what came before it. Think grand hotel kitchens, all working under the influence of Auguste Escoffier.
The legend.
The legend, exactly. We're talking super elaborate dishes defined by these incredibly rich, intense sauces. Sauces that could take days to make properly.
Right, that very traditional, almost ceremonial French cooking style.
Right.
Where prepping a vegetable wasn't just chopping, it was like carving the tourné cut, getting those perfect shapes.
Precisely. And sauces, well, they weren't just drizzled on. We're talking foundational stuff like demi-glace that would simmer for ages.
It sounds incredibly skillful, for sure, but also maybe a bit much. Intense.
Oh, it was definitely a showcase of amazing technique and deep tradition. But, by the middle of the 20th century, a new generation of chefs started feeling, well, hemmed in by it all.
Hemmed in how? By the richness?
Partly the richness, yeah, but also the strict rules. They just had this growing desire to, let the actual flavor of the ingredients shine through, the real taste.
Ah, okay. So that feeling of being kind of creatively stuck, that's the spark, isn't it? This sort of culinary fatigue that just kicked off a rebellion.
Pretty much. You had this group of young, really passionate chefs deciding enough is enough. They wanted to step away from the old rules and let, say, a perfect ripe tomato or a beautifully cooked piece of fish be the star.
Makes sense.
And that's where Nouvelle Cuisine really comes into play. It wasn't just about tweaking recipes. It was a whole new way of thinking about food, a real moment of defiance, but also amazing creativity. And like the article says, it fundamentally changed how we approach food, right down to how chefs choose ingredients or even how we might cook at home.
Okay, so let's dig into that older style a bit more.
Yeah.
What defined classical French haute cuisine, the Escoffier era? What were the main things?
Well, picture really complex recipes. Often they involved super long cooking processes to get specific textures and deep developed flavors. Technique was everything.
And the sauces.
The sauces were king, rich, dense, often starting with a roux, the butter and flour paste, and then built on the 5 mother sauces, bechamel, velouté, espagnole, hollandaise, tomate. And the article makes a good point. Sometimes those sauces were so intense they could actually cover up the flavor of the main ingredient.
That tracks. Almost like the sauce was the point,
Right.
And the fish or veg was just the vehicle.
Kind of, yeah. And the article hints this might have roots in pre-refrigeration times, Strong flavors could maybe mask ingredients that weren't perfectly fresh.
Interesting historical context.
Yes, exactly. But then you start seeing these key figures pop up who wanted something different. The article mentions Paul Bocuse. Of course, he became the global face of this new movement.
Real ambassador.
Totally. Then you had the Troisgros brothers, famous for being obsessed with freshness. Michel Guérard, who even developed cuisine minceur, a sort of lighter, healthier haute cuisine. Elaine Chappell. These guys were innovators.
And what united them?
Their main goal really was lighter food, more authentic food, food that tasted like itself.
And it wasn't just the chefs working in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
The article mentions critics Henri Gault and Christian Millau and their guide, Gault Millau. They played a big part.
Oh, huge. They were crucial. They actually coined the term Nouvelle Cuisine, gave it a name, made it a thing.
So they sort of codified it?
You could say that. They became its voice, spelling out the main ideas. The article talks about their 10 commandments of Nouvelle Cuisine, which basically gave this new philosophy a clear framework and a platform.
Okay, so what were these commandments? These revolutionary principles?
Well, number 1, and maybe the most important, freshness. Le produit avant tout.
The ingredient above all else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A total shift in focus. It wasn't about complicated techniques first. It was about getting the absolute best quality, seasonal, and if possible, local ingredients. Forget the pantry staples, the seasons, and the local market. The marché became the real inspiration.
So using what's perfect right now, not just what's available year-round, that must have felt radical compared to when preservation was key.
It really was, and that leads directly to the second principle, lightness in sauces, moving away from those heavy, floury sauces.
The ones that coated everything.
Yeah. Towards lighter stuff, clean reductions, natural cooking juices, beurre blanc, fresh vinaigrettes. The idea was to enhance the main ingredient, not smother it. Like the article suggests, the sauce became a supporting actor, not the star.
I like that. Complementing, not dominating. And focusing on the ingredient itself must have changed the cooking methods too, right?
Absolutely. Shorter cooking times became really important. Why? To keep that freshness, the nutrients, the right texture. Think crisp, tender vegetables, al dente, and the bright colors.
Makes sense.
The article mentions examples like fish, the Troisgros brothers' famous salmon, for instance, being served just cooked through, maybe slightly pink, still moist and delicate. So gentler methods like steaming, sautéing, poaching became more popular.
So less of the long, slow cooking that maybe made everything taste similar.
You could say that it was about respecting the ingredients' integrity, which also led to another core idea, simplicity as elegance.
Less is more.
Exactly. Instead of crowding the plate with tons of different things, Nouvelle Cuisine favored fewer, well-chosen elements. This meant cleaner, clearer flavors where you could actually appreciate each component. The focus shifted, from just complex prep to the purity of the taste.
It sounds much more direct, honest, maybe. And then there's how it looked. The article mentions the plate as a canvas.
Yes, that was huge. Presentation suddenly became a really big part of the whole experience. Each plate was like a little composition, an artwork.
How so?
Chefs started thinking consciously about visual harmony, colors, shapes, textures, even using the empty space on the plate, the negative space. It wasn't just about taste anymore. It was about how visually appealing it was, too.
A feast for the eyes, literally.
Yeah.
So engaging more senses. And with all these changes, I bet there was a feeling of freedom, right? A willingness to break rules.
Definitely. Openness to innovation was key. These chefs knew their classical French techniques inside out, but they weren't afraid to experiment, question things, even break some rules intelligently, though.
Not just for shock value.
No. The article hints at introducing maybe unexpected flavor combinations, developing a more personal signature style. It wasn't about throwing out tradition, more like building on it in new, exciting ways.
And one last big change the article points out, the chef themselves. Their role changed.
Massively. Chefs like Bocuse stepped out from behind the stove. They weren't anonymous craftspeople anymore. They became public figures, personalities, culinary artists.
The celebrity chef is born.
Pretty much. Their names, their styles were celebrated. The kitchen kind of became a stage, and the chef was the star, drawing people in just as much as the food.
Okay, so we've got this huge shift. Fresh ingredients, lighter sauces, quicker cooking, simpler plates, artful presentation, innovation, and the chef as a star. But why does this matter so much? Why is this relevant today, maybe even for someone listening in, say, Croatia?
Well, because Nouvelle Cuisine, in a way, made high-end dining feel a bit more approachable.
Okay.
It didn't suddenly get cheap, but it did strip away some of the intimidating formality and those really complex, sometimes hard-to-decipher dishes of the old school.
Yeah.
Clearer flavors, dishes you could actually understand by looking at them, it made the whole experience less scary. Plus, like you said, chefs being more visible in the media helped connect the kitchen with the diners.
That makes a lot of sense. If you can actually taste the carrot, you feel more involved. And the article argues this movement really set the stage for, well, most modern cooking around the world. Can you give some examples of that lasting influence?
Oh, absolutely. Think about seasonal menus. Used to be rare. Now it's pretty standard practice in good restaurants, right? That respect for nature's cycles, peak freshness,
True.
or the focus on local suppliers, building relationships with farmers, placing real value on ingredient freshness, the importance of making food look good on the plate, even just the general desire for lighter meals that all has roots in Nouvelle Cuisine.
So it connects to things like farm to table.
Exactly. The article nails that connection, farm to table, New Nordic cuisine. These later movements definitely stand on the shoulders of Nouvelle Cuisine. Its core ideas are just baked into how we think about good food today.
It's like it planted seeds that just kept growing. And the article also mentions how it inspired generations of chefs after them.
Totally. It showed them it was okay, more than okay. It was desirable to innovate, to develop your own style, even while respecting the classics. Cookbooks by Bocuse, Guérard, they became like Bibles for young chefs.
So learning from the masters.
Yeah, working in their kitchens or with chefs they trained became a huge badge of honor. So many top chefs today, whether they consciously think about it or not, are working within the framework Nouvelle Cuisine established.
And it changed us, too, as eaters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more interested, more knowledgeable.
I think so, yeah. The movement, combined with things like restaurant guides becoming more popular and more media coverage, definitely raised public awareness. People started asking smarter questions. Where does this fish come from? Is this asparagus in season? What's the story here?
The birth of the foodie.
It certainly fueled that fire, that culture where we appreciate quality ingredients, skilled cooking, good looks, the whole experience. You see it in bustling markets. You hear it in everyday chats about dinner.
Now, the article is balanced. It does mention some criticisms that popped up, especially later on. What were those about?
Right. It points out that some chefs, or maybe less talented followers, kind of took things too far. You got the cliches, like ridiculously tiny portions that became a running joke.
The microscopic food on a huge plate.
Exactly. Or super high prices that didn't always match what you got.
Yeah.
And sometimes the presentation got so fussy, so architectural, that it lost that original spirit of natural simplicity.
So like any big movement, it had its moment of exaggeration, maybe even self-parody.
Yeah, that happens. But the article stresses, and I agree, that those later issues don't take away from the revolutionary power of the core ideas.
What are those core ideas that still hold up?
The fundamentals. Huge respect for top-quality, fresh ingredients, the drive for authentic, clean flavors, the importance of balance and lightness, and seeing the chef as a creative interpreter, not just a recipe follower. Those things are timeless. They still inspire good cooking everywhere.
So even if you don't see Nouvelle Cuisine listed on menus much today, its ghost is still very much present. How can we spot its influence, maybe in our own kitchens, even here in Croatia?
Oh, the spirit is definitely alive. You see it whenever a restaurant makes a point of saying their menu is seasonal or they name their local farmer. You feel it in that general trend towards food that's tasty but also light, healthy, looks good, that focus on freshness and authenticity. It's just part of how we think about good food now, globally.
For someone cooking at home,
Yeah.
how can we channel that philosophy? The article gives some nice local examples, like using ingredients from the Samobor Plak or Dolac market.
Absolutely. It really starts with just appreciating the quality of what you buy. When you're at the market in Samobor, picking the best strawberries or grabbing the first spring asparagus, or at Dolac choosing amazing seasonal veg or fish from the Adriatic, you're already doing principle number one.
Recognizing the good stuff.
Exactly. Appreciating nature's best and the people who grew or caught it.
And then it's about letting those amazing ingredients be the stars, right? Simple cooking, not hiding them under heavy stuff.
Precisely. Why drown beautiful fresh vegetables in a thick sauce? Think simple, maybe blanch them quickly so they stay crisp and bright green, roast them with some good local olive oil and herbs to bring out their sweetness, or just a simple salad with a light vinaigrette. Think about a classic Croatian dish like blit vanileo Swiss chard, just boiled with potato and garlic. Pure simplicity celebrating the veg.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
But for fish or meat,
Same idea. Let the quality speak. Maybe bake a beautiful piece of fresh fish or quickly pan-sear some good meat with just salt, pepper, olive oil, maybe a squeeze of lemon, a splash of local white wine. I don't need to smother it. Even just deglazing the pan with a bit of stock or wine after cooking meat that creates a simple, delicious sauce from the natural juices.
it sounds much less stressful for the home cook, actually.
It really is. It's about choosing not to overcomplicate things, not having too many flavors fighting each other. Sometimes, honestly, less is more. Letting 2 or 3 great ingredients sing together instead of a whole choir shouting.
And the upsides are pretty obvious. Cleaner tastes, lighter, healthier food, less kitchen stress, and maybe feeling more connected to where your food comes from.
Totally. So next time you're making a simple salad with fresh market greens or grilling a piece of fish, just remember, that's not just a quick meal. That's the spirit of Nouvelle Cuisine, right there in your kitchen. It's that smart, timeless idea of simplicity, celebrating real flavor in its purest form.
So, wrapping it all up, Nouvelle Cuisine wasn't just some passing fad. It was a deep, fundamental shift in cooking, bringing the focus right back to the essentials. Amazing fresh ingredients, treated simply to let their true flavors shine.
Exactly. These visionary chefs pushed for shorter cooking, seasonal buying, lighter sauces that helped, not hid, and making food look beautiful. All about authenticity and connecting with the ingredient.
And its legacy is huge, isn't it? Far beyond France, far beyond fancy restaurants. It really changed how the whole world thinks about food. Freshness, simplicity, looks, health. Those are pillars of modern cooking now.
For sure. So the next time you really enjoy a meal because it tastes so fresh and clean and looks beautiful, maybe give a little nod to those brave French chefs from way back when. They
Yep.
started something truly delicious and lasting that we're all still benefiting from. It really does come down to that intelligence of simplicity, that celebration of true flavor. And that, well, that never gets old.